Daredevil Season 3 is a total masterpiece, and I love it with all my heart. Daredevil Season 3 is everything a superhero TV show should be. Daredevil Season 3 is a perfect balance of character drama and twists and turns and emotion with awesome action scenes and straight-up comic book goodness. It's also beautifully shot and acted and written, and I haven't stopped thinking about it all week. Thank you, Marvel. Thank you, Netflix. Thank you, Eric Olson. Thank you, Charlie Cox. You know, despite some of their shortcomings, I've actually been a reasonable fan of the Marvel Netflix shows. I love Jessica Jones, Defenders was pretty fun, Luke Cage was at least decent, and by golly gee, even Iron Fist had its moments. Mostly just Colleen Wing, not gonna lie. Daredevil though, it's on a whole nother level. Season 1 was nothing short of incredible. I loved it when I first saw it, and actually I think I dressed up as Daredevil for Halloween in 2015. Yeah, there it is. I mean, it's not terrible. Anyway, up until last week, I didn't think there was any way that Season 1 of Daredevil could ever be topped.
Ha! Boy, was I wrong!
Season 3 is nothing but straight fire, and it's everything I ever wanted and more. I had other videos planned to make this week, but I was so excited to gush about this that I had to do it now. Let's talk about this show, right? Spoilers. Spoilers everywhere. So by most standards, the third season of Daredevil starts out pretty slow. We've got 2 straight episodes of Matt Murdock moping around in a church without much action or anything, and some of the stuff we're shown, like the family life of this random new dude Nadeem, or all this stuff with Foggy and his political campaign, might seem a little pointless or tedious at first glance. The thing is though, by the end of the season, you really realize that almost everything the show chose to highlight throughout, from Agent Nadeem to Sister Maggie to the whole episode on Karen's backstory, actually had a pretty real and effective purpose in the narrative. No time was wasted. Almost all of it was used to make you care. Lots of Marvel Netflix shows have a lot of trouble getting you to care about the supporting characters. I don't give a crap about Misty Knight or Trish Walker or the other people in Iron Fist, but that's not the case with Daredevil. None of the supporting characters on this show, especially in Season 3, ever feel like sidekicks. Everybody is always the protagonist of their own story, and that's what makes them compelling and likable. Almost all of these Netflix seasons have been 13 episodes long, and with almost all of them up till now, I've said that if you squeeze that 13 down to like 8 or 10 episodes, nothing would really be lost. You'd just get rid of filler and have something much more concise and effective. It's crazy then that Season 3 of Daredevil is maybe the only example of a Marvel Netflix show where I think the 13 episode length was pretty warranted. Shortening it would get rid of too much important stuff, and that's actually a good sign. Each episode is also balanced really well. There's just enough action to keep you on the edge of your seat, but none of it feels like it's there just to have a fight scene. Speaking of action though, can we talk about that? The action scenes in Season 3, without feeling like they're trying too hard, completely take everything from the first 2 seasons to a totally new level. We all know at this point, but that prison scene? Holy cow, incredible. And I thought they must have hidden cuts somewhere in that 11-minute shot, but according to the director and actors, it was completely one authentic single take with no cheating involved. My mind is blown. Even some of the action scenes that might have been more boring or forgettable in other seasons, like that FBI shootout in the warehouse with the suit guy, or Matt and Nadeem on the highway, or Matt and Nadeem in the apartment, pretty much everything is really memorable this time around, and the stakes feel high at all times. Matt may go through a whole room of guys and gradually beat them all up, but it never once feels like he really has the upper hand. Almost every action scene in this season has tension and drama because you're really not sure when he could get seriously injured, and the enemies aren't faceless ninja henchmen he can just plow through either. Stripping Matt of his red armored devil suit from Season 2 in Defenders and forcing him back to basics with the black was a perfect move, partly because it's representative of the weakened state of his character, but also because it's so much better to have Matt as a scrappy underdog who just keeps getting back up than portraying him as some dominating badass. That's not to say he doesn't get any cool moments though, because he does. All of Matt's fights with Bullseye are so awesome. They really managed to pull off that whole never misses ricochet throwing arm power set without it feeling goofy or breaking the realism.
Bullseye.
When that dude steps into a room and gets his hands on literally any object in existence, your life is instantly in danger. The line the show draws between Poindexter and Matt is very intentional. They had similar upbringings, they have some of the same characteristics, one of them is even wearing the other's suit, like duh. It's obviously a deliberate connection, but what's great is that the show only directly acknowledges the parallels like once. It's just there for the audiences to look at and realize themselves. Realize that when Matt is fighting Poindexter, he's really fighting the demons, the devil within himself. Poindexter's tragic, slow burn descent into madness is almost indicative of what Matt could become if he didn't have his friends and mentors and even his faith for guidance. I think, if anything, this season of the show really cemented in my head that Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock is perfect casting on the same level as RDJ's Iron Man. Everything he brings to the character adds depth and likability and nuance. It would have been so easy for another, shallower actor to take Matt's crisis of faith and anger at God in this season and turn it into a try-hard, edgy boy persona like Robin from Titans. But Charlie Cox manages to convey that anger and resentment and inner torment while still maintaining the authentic heart and soul of Matt Murdock that we know the character needs to embrace again. Oh, also, on that note, this is one of the best portrayals of Matt's Christian faith, or really any Christian faith, I've seen in a very long time. It's not stereotyped or cliche, it's not a political statement about the good or evil of religion. It's just a very real, personal, subjective depiction of how one dude's belief in God has led him to be the hero that he is and hold the beliefs and moral standards that he does. This season of the show, to me, was about Matt figuring out why he is Daredevil and making sure his heart was in the right place to be a hero. If he just dons the devil suit because he wants to feel like a martyr, or because he likes taking out his anger at the world by beating up bad guys, or because he's fearful that God's justice isn't enough, he's not doing it for the right reasons. Season 3 was about Matt figuring out what those right reasons are. I read this really stupid article from The Verge about how they thought this show was toxic because it perpetuated the idea that suffering is what makes a man? Which, like, what? Hey, The Verge, did you watch the show? This whole season has Matt thinking he has to suffer and go at this alone and cut himself off from his friends in order to be a hero, yeah. But it's saying he's wrong for thinking that. That's the point. The wise mentors in Matt's life keep telling him that he's acting like a bit of a self-righteous prick and he needs to lighten up and realize he doesn't have to do this alone. He's not, as he proposes in the first episode, like Job from the Bible. He still has friends and family that care about him. The show is saying that Matt's propensity to make himself suffer just to prove he's a hero is a bad thing, not a good one. He's seeing his role as Daredevil as this curse he has to bear, and even wallowing in that idea. But what Daredevil really should be is a gift, and Matt realizes that at the end of the season.
I realized that if my life had turned out any differently, that I would never have become Daredevil. And although people have died on my watch, people who shouldn't have, there are countless others that have lived. So, maybe it is all part of God's plan.
Let's talk about Kingpin, yeah? That dude is having quite a year. He was in Spider-Man PS4, he's in this show, and I think he's gonna be in Into the Spider-Verse too. It's kinda weird that the average person probably still doesn't know who the character is. Dude, seeing Kingpin don the white suit and come into his role as this dominating, puppet master, manipulative comic book Kingpin was so nerdgasm, I can't even begin. Once again, I thought Season 1 did that character the best he'd ever be done, but this was straight up Shakespearean. Wilson Fisk is this insane psychopath monster, but he's also sympathetic and tragic, and you almost pity him despite how horrible he is. And the dude doesn't feel like he's just someone who sits back and lets his army of henchmen do the work for him. Every time he's on screen, he's got this presence that's just so intimidating and sinister. You want Matt to kill him and feel Matt's urge and yearning to be the one who does, the one who brings justice. But every time he's punched in the face repeatedly and beaten up in that season finale, you can't help but also feel sorry for him too. The dude just wants to be with his wife and become a mob boss. A really evil mob boss. Not gonna lie, that final fight between Kingpin and Matt and Poindexter probably isn't as great as it could have been. It's actually one of the weaker action scenes in this season. But weirdly, I think it's still very satisfying because it's anchored so heavily in the character motivations of each hero and villain. And we've spent enough time getting inside each of their heads throughout the show that even when the actual fight isn't amazing, the amount of character drive makes it work. Matt's tortured scream as he decides not to kill Kingpin was real. I felt that. I also felt the love and the warmth and the joy of seeing Matt and Karen and Foggy back together again in that final scene. The relationship between the three of them, even though they weren't in the same room together much, really did anchor this season pretty heavily. And I love that this dark, mature, adult show still has the heart to go all in on their sappy friendship. So that's pretty much it. Daredevil Season 3 was really good, and I recommend everyone over the age of, 14 watch it. Maybe 15. I'm gonna go get back to other videos now. I've got a Shark Boy and Lava Girl video on the way, and one about Prince of Egypt too, so I'm gonna go do that. Bye! Give us a Daredevil PS4 game.